for a few minutes. All right, so I had a lot of people asking me about why our church is not able to publicly meet. And so I just wanted to give you a little background of what we're dealing with and why we are where we're at, why we had to cancel our Christmas fellowship, and why we are hindering or not as, not publicly advertising or able to worship as well. But we bought this property in 2017, late 2017. After we decided to buy this property, we wanted to put a temporary driveway in to where we could just get in here, clear some land, access it, pray for it, all these other things we want to do. So not knowing anything, contacted the county. They put us in touch with the Florida Department of Transportation, which is the FDOT. Dwayne Fisher expressed that to get the temporary driveway, we'd have to get a temporary driveway permit, which is, pay the fee, submit a drawn plan of a temporary culvert and entrance, and that's what we would need to do. So after doing that, the response came back that was not cleared, that this road was widened sometime in 2005 or some sort of time in that project by Silverleaf Development. And they knew that was coming, so they paid to widen this road. It was a DOT project, but it was privately funded by private contractors in such that they could not buy property and store water from the roadway. So they designed linear ponds on the sides of these roads. And, I was growing up, they were called ditches. That looks like a ditch out there to me. That's not considered a ditch. That is a calculated linear pond or swell. Stores water and has grass in it and exotic soil from, I don't even remember where they told me from, that, takes the pollutants out of it and all this stuff like that. So I had a meeting with the FDOT, and when I went there was more than I could number, probably 14 of them maybe in a room, just be by myself. And I thought, wow, this is a pretty big meeting just for a temporary driveway. But anyhow, during that time, they explained that to me. Suggestions they had was that we could ask the neighbor next door who had an access there that we could use their access and come through. I'm sure they would be thrilled about that. Or we could access it from another place, or to sell our property because of the burden it would be to try to put an access in a linear pond that was not designed to have an access in it. So long story short, actually a long story long, because you guys got a long way to go. They told us that when they had done this project, that every parcel got a access built, or they were allowed an access with a pre-programmed plan, except one, and they missed ours. So it was they missed ours. The neighbor has two. We didn't get any, and so through that process, we had not much of a choice. So we contacted St. John's River Water Management, who is in control of the drainage out here. So there's 5 different agencies we worked with on this project between St. Johns County, Florida Department of Transportation, St. John's River Water Management, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and the Army Corps of Engineers. So 5 different permits, 5 different people, 5 different ideals, 5 different engineers, 5 different nightmares. All right, so anyhow, through the process of St. John's River Water Management, Dale Eisman advised us that yes, it was a mistake. The FDOT should have gave us an access. They didn't. He would work with us the best he could to give us enough access space that we could construct a driveway suitable for our project without an exorbitant amount of expense to modify multiple linear ponds on State Road 16. So the plan was made. It was approved by St. John's River Water Management and FDOT as well. The problem with the plan was that the culvert was only allowed to be 44 linear feet. Every driveway in this area is 60 linear feet. We was only allowed 44 linear feet. So as you know, with the new flood elevations, your property has to be a certain height. So that puts the driveway over the culvert about 20 inches. So 44 linear feet, 20 inches high. You have to be 26 wide on your driveway with mitered ends. It doesn't give you a lot of room for slope on the sides. So after that, we applied for our permanent access, and we submitted it. We installed the culvert. It was inspected by the DOT inspector, Paul Harvey, not the guy from the radio. I was kind of excited. I was disappointed when I met him. He wasn't the guy on the radio. But anyhow, he wasn't. He said everything was in compliance. Everything was good. We constructed the parking lot at the St. Johns County standards. We had changed our parking lot from asphalt to concrete. You remember it was a much cheaper option for us to have concrete instead of asphalt. St. Johns County considered that a minor modification and said on our as-built, which is a final seal from your engineer saying everything constructed on this property is to a licensed professional's standard. And so he just puts that on there as a change from asphalt from asphalt to concrete, signs and seals it, and just a minor modification with no other issue or no review needed to be taken. So as we constructed our parking lot, we got up to the FDOT right-of-way, which is 50 foot off the road. We contacted Dwayne Fisher, who was the original guy from the FDOT, about a permit and about constructing the project for our permit. And Robert White was the official FDOT trained and approved inspector. Clearly noticed when he shows you his badge and spouts his numbers and says he's an agent for the state of Florida. So obviously he was definitely from the FDOT. He was our point of contact that would help us through the process of how to go through the process of constructing the driveway. So me, myself, Danny King, and Vinny King of DK Masonry met out here with Robert White, expressed our interest of constructing the driveway, what we needed to do. We began to analyze the plan, look at the plan, and in agreement with our engineer as well, our parking lot, now that's concrete, it was going to be concrete all the way up to the right-of-way, and then it was going to go asphalt for about 25 feet, and then back to concrete to State Road 16. So in wanting to keep the whole thing concrete, we just asked the inspector, could we eliminate the asphalt and just keep it all 6-inch concrete through the whole thing? To which he replied, yes, it's no problem, 6-inch concrete, no metal. FDOT does not like rebar or metal in their right-of-ways. Your engineer will be able to redline it at the time of your as-builds. So we asked what redlining meant. He said it's simple. He takes a red line, he rocks through the asphalt and says 6-inch concrete. He signs and seals it, just like the process through the county. Everything will be fine. So later, as we begin to lay out the project, he did not think that the water going from our roadway from our culvert to the roadway, he didn't want it in a straight line because he thought it would be too much water going to the roadway. So he said we needed to create a little inversion before the sidewalk. And then me and Danny King expressed to him that if you have curbs on the side and you had created an inversion, it's going to trap the water in that inversion. The water has nowhere to go. So he expressed, well, you can just eliminate the curbs. You have a concrete driveway, much like our parking lot out here. There's no curbs on it because the curbs hold in the asphalt from washing out. So if you have a 6-inch piece of concrete, nothing's going to wash out. It's a solid piece of concrete. So he said that you didn't have to have the curbs. So we called our civil engineer and got him on the phone, and he said, we talked to him about the changes. He said, well, if it's an approved official DOT representative, and he says that's the way it has to be, then he says it's approved or that it will be approved. There's no issue on IMC Civil's behalf, in which Robert White spoke up and said, yes, all you have to do is redline the plans and everything will be okay. So DK Masonry began working on it. Danny King performed the first section of concrete. I'm going to shorten this for you guys, but basically 5 times we poured 5 different sections because he didn't want us to pour it all in one time. So 5 different days, 6 different days, including the tear out. Robert White, who's the FDOT inspector, was contacted and came and gave the approval for the green light to pour concrete. He was here and talked to the concrete plant manager. He talked to Danny King. He talked to his son. He talked to me. He talked to anyone who had ears. All right, so we were here approximately 40-something hours. He was on our job probably 30 out of the 40-something hours. So much so that even county employees were laughing and told me that every time they drove by, they'd never seen a DOT inspector on a job so much, which as well, we would prefer it that way because he inspected every single form, he inspected every single pour, he inspected every single part of the driveway that we put in. So when he gets done, the last day he comes, he said everything looks great, everything looks up to standards. I asked him, what did he think? Everything good? He said yes. Make sure you get the slope sodded, get your striping in, and signs in place, and redline the file, and we'll get it closed out. You're good to go to begin using the driveway. So other than him, there was no contact from anyone else from the Florida Department of Transportation. There was never any time during the process, an email, a text, a phone call, or a personal meeting with Robert White, who's the FDOT inspector, with me or Danny King about non-compliance or work performed or a stop work order or a call to a supervisor for a review or call your engineer out here. Not one time in interacting with him over 6 days was there questioning or concerns about compliance or having new plans drawn or going through a review process or hesitation of being given anything that we were doing on site. He was clearly the point of contact between us and was sufficiently contacted every step of the way. Nothing was constructed before his approval or poured. Nothing was constructed being inspected without being inspected, and he was on site for multiple days. And like I said, multiple workers, county workers, everyone observed him here during the process. And on October 29th, it was when we finished constructing the driveway, it was clear he gave his approval, his compliance to the organization which he represented. So that was the completed date. And then over less than a week later, he came by, and Buddy was here. He pulled up, said something to Buddy. Buddy said, "What, is there something wrong?" He says, "No, everything's good with the driveway. He just needs to get these slopes sodded because the waters began to wash out some of the edges." So even then, he didn't even tell of anything wrong with the project a week later. So then after that, another week went by. Nate Gottschalk, who's another official member of FDOT, met on site with Robert White, began to review the project. I happened to be here. Nate asked for me to give him some privacy, to which Robert White commented and said, "Yes, I still have a lot to learn." And Nate began to oversee the inspecting the driveway, questioning the process of the driveway, and then from that point, another Dwayne Fisher as well was involved from November 12th of inspections, different things that they were talking about. No one ever produced any writing for several meetings, and also met on site with our engineer on November 25th. And then after 6 weeks or 5.5 weeks, on December 3rd, they finally write a letter of non-compliance saying that we needed to tear the whole driveway out and start over and go back to the original asphalt plan with the curbs and the gutters because we didn't have permission to do so. So Robert White and I talked on the phone as well. He said, "Stick to your guns. Everything's going to be fine." He approached another, like I said, else said everything was good. So the non-compliance letter was sent this past week. I asked just for a temporary access. They said they would not give it because, it's a life-threatening issue to come into the driveway. I'm glad to see you guys are all safe and here. But when you exit, be careful. Anyways, those are here for our church members. Anyhow, the point being is that sometimes in life you get to a point where you have nothing to do but to fight back. So for us as a church, I feel like we've satisfied our requirements that we had from the Florida Department of Transportation. Their unwillingness to work, the questioning of my integrity, of saying that Robert White approved our plans, and he said, "I've known Robert White for many years. He would never have told you can do that." And obviously, I hope 15 years in the Florida Department of Transportation, he would know the difference between asphalt and concrete. I'm not sure how he can watch for 6 days concrete being poured and not realize it's not asphalt. Common sense and logic would tell you he knew it was concrete, he approved it, he allowed it. He never wrote one email to his superiors, to me, to anyone about saying it had to be asphalt, it had to be curbed, or nothing. There was never any non-compliance for him at all. So we are going to enter the process of trying to fight it and try to ask for official requests of emails, text notes, or pictures taken, because he did take several pictures while I was here, saying how good of a job we were doing and noting it, putting those things. So that's where we're at, and I hope you pray for us. I hope you pray for us because we want to be moved in. We want to be able to serve our community. We want to be able to have Christmas Eve service. We want to be able to see people saved. We want to be able to baptize people. We want to do a lot of good things here, and I know that it will happen, and I know we just got to call upon the name of the Lord, but trying to appease someone that's never going to be happy, and obviously there's some sort of issue, and we need to get to the bottom of it, and then I need to